Welcome to this two-part series on PARTF Administration and Accounting Workshop. Congratulations on receiving a grant this year. Because of limited funds, projects were extremely competitive, so good job on a well put together application. During this video, we will cover Parks and Recreation Trust Fund Grant Program, general information, expectations of the grantee throughout the project period, reimbursements, and closing out your project. Pages 1 through 3 of the manual include general information. Here you will find definitions, a little bit about the Parks and Recreation Authority, the governing board who awarded your grant, and contract information. Should you have questions, your first point of contact is the Recreation Resources Consultant assigned to your region. Please maintain close communication with this person throughout the grant period. Understanding your contract is very important. Read your contract carefully. If you haven't yet done so, please sign and promptly return your contract to the North Carolina Department of Natural and Cultural Resources in Raleigh. Your next step is to read the manual in its entirety. I cannot stress that enough. Some of you have received grants in previous years. The manual goes through periodic updates, so things may have changed since your last grant. A new version of the manual was just released with significant changes. Components of the grant include grant conditions, which you will find on page 4 of the manual. These are conditions you have agreed to, including, but not limited to, state bidding and contract requirements, compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act, consequences for failure to comply with terms of the contract, records retention, park operation and maintenance, and the public use requirement. A lot can be found on page 1 of your contract. Your contract number. All of this year's grants will begin with 21 since they were funded in fiscal year 2021. Your project start date, the scope of work, which is a description of the land acquisition and or facility development the grantee is obligated to complete, and of course, the grant amount. The scope of work also includes attachment B of your contract. Another component is the list of project costs that were submitted with your application. Completing all items on this list are obligations of the grantee, even if not listed in the description of the project on attachment B or page 1 of the contract. Persons allowed to sign on the local government's behalf are authorized employees or elected officials listed on page 2 of the contract and or listed on the basic facts and assurances page submitted with your application. If you are using a third party to administer the grant and want to give them permission to sign on behalf of the local government, official documentation making this request must be received by the North Carolina Division of Parks and Recreation from the local government. This is not typical and is handled on a case-by-case basis. Changes to any of the contract components require advance approval and contract amendment from the Division of Parks and Recreation. Things you want to keep in your project file are listed here. If you are not already registered with the state for e-pay and you would like to receive your reimbursements electronically, contact the state controller's office. Retain your contract, any amendments, accounting documentation, inspections, project cost and any revisions, site maps, and other correspondence for 5 years following final payment and close of your project. If you have an acquisition project, retain copies of deeds, appraisals, surveys, maps, offer to purchase, proof of payment, evidence of title, etc. This will be covered more when we walk through reimbursements. The grantee has 1 year from the execution of the grant to begin substantial work. This is monitored by a series of inspections conducted by your Recreation Resources Service consultant. The 6-month inspection could possibly be done by phone. All subsequent inspections will be conducted on site with both your consultant and an approved representative for the local government in attendance. Before we move into reimbursements, again, let me stress the importance of reading the manual in its entirety. We'll briefly pause and then move into the second part of this series.